Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So today I got asked a question about non-competes, and I thought that I would just give you some of my thoughts as an employer on non-competes and non-compete agreements, since the FTC has been pushing for these to become illegal from the beginning of the year. This rule would require that any employer that has an agreement with a non-compete clause as defined by the rule to both rescind the clause and provide an individualized communication about the rescission to the worker. Any clause negotiated in exchange for the agreement to the non-compete clause would remain valid. I, as an employer, made you, the employee, sign an agreement that said you're not allowed to work for any other company for this time period after you quit working for me or after I fire you. This would no longer be allowed. This would no longer be a valid agreement. It would be illegal. You have many companies that don't treat their employees very well, and as a result of not treating their employees very well, they have to find other ways to keep you around. They can't keep you around by providing a good work environment, they can't keep you around by giving you a sense of fulfillment in your work, and they can't keep you around by paying you a wage that is acceptable. So the way that they choose to keep you around, rather than by offering you a good experience, is by shackles. And the shackles they put on your feet and your hands are in the form of a non-compete that does not allow you legally to work for somebody else. So if you get a job working for somebody else, whether you are a CEO or a hairstylist, you could actually get in legal trouble for quitting your job and getting another one. What makes this even more disgusting to me is that many of these agreements are written in a manner where you don't even need to quit. You can get fired. Your boss can say, "I don't like you," and fire you. Being able to say, "I don't like your face," you're fired, you can't work in this industry for a year? Fuck off with that shit. I have the right to tell any of my employees that I no longer want to continue giving you money. That's okay. But they also have the right to go somewhere else and get a job somewhere else and compete with my business. That is their right in a free market economy. You will often hear large employers, you'll often hear large corporations say the government shouldn't get involved with things. The free market will sort it out. The free market will sort it out so the best products and the best services come to light to the consumer so that prices are able to stay low for our products, because the free market will ensure that the price parity reaches where it should be. But for some reason, when it comes to employees, they don't want a free market with that shit, because that's what happens in an actual free market economy. Wages go up. In my store, in my business, one of the reasons that we have excellent reviews on Google, most of this is not me. I'm not really good at running a business, and I'm not really good at doing what I do. But the people that I hire are exceptional at doing what they do, and they're why we have good ratings and reviews. And one of the reasons that I was able to get great people is when people would buy stuff from my supply company back in the day, I would talk and shoot the shit with them back and forth and get an idea of what it was like at their workplace. And one of my first people that I hired back in 2012, he used to work at a place that I worked at in 2009 that I quit. This place sucked. They didn't even want to buy new soldering iron tips. When I would say that the soldering iron tip that I had didn't work, the guy would literally give me a piece of sandpaper because me spending $15 on a soldering iron tip was not allowed. I walked out 4 days into this job because this was a horrible work environment. And when people who worked at that place would come to me later, I would ask them, "Hey, how do you like your work?" And the guy kind of snickered and sat down and is like, "How much time do you have?" And after going through everything for 45 minutes, how he was, denied the ability to take time off when his kid was born, the unpaid overtime, the low pay, everything else, I asked, are you able to do LCD cell only screen repair? Are you able to do this? Are you able to do that? And he gave me a quick demonstration. And I said, "Well, what do you get paid?" And my jaw dropped to the floor because this person that was able to produce this much value for their company was getting paid trash. So I said, "Okay, what if I pay you this?" And because this would allow me to make a healthy profit for my business so it stays viable while simultaneously paying him way more. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm out of there." And he started working for me, and he worked for me for 4 years. Many of the best employees that I had, I stole from other businesses that were treating them unfairly, that were not paying them what they were worth. Because my business was more productive, and admittedly a little bit less greedy, but mostly more productive, I was able to offer them a better rate. Because I started doing things like LCD cell-only screen repair, because I was doing things like a board repair at component level, I had higher profit margins because I was willing to fix a board rather than replace it. The higher profit margins, because I was being more productive and offering them better value to my customer, meant that I had more money available to pay that employee, which meant that I could then hire that employee and pay them more than the business that was less efficient. This meant that a business that was more efficient, mine, got to grow and also got to hire people at a higher wage. So not only were customers better off without a non-compete in place, because I was able to hire these people and have them perform services for customers that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to perform, but also the employee is better off because the employee was getting paid about 40% more at my business, and he was also able to take time off to deal with his family anytime there was an issue because I offered vacations and everything else that his ex-employer was illegally withholding from him. Now, unfortunately, this employee had signed a non-compete. He signed a non-compete. And the way that I got around the non-compete is the employee and myself had so much dirt on so many things that this person did that were against so many regulations that we just had a feeling that we never had to worry about this non-compete ever being enforced. He knew better. But what if he had a non-compete that he could actually enforce? That would mean that this employee would make less money and have a crappier life because he had less days off, less flexibility, and worked at a company he didn't like. It would mean that the customers of my business would probably never get to the point of being able to have LCD cell only screen repairs or board only repairs because I wouldn't have had the time to research this because I didn't have an employee of his level to manage everything else for me. And it would have meant that my business wouldn't have been as profitable. So my business would have never had the chance to evolve to becoming as efficient as it did now. My employee would have made less money and the customer would have had less services able to be offered to them, all because this employee, who is very capable and talented, was stuck in an environment that was failing him. Is this good for the economy? Is this good for any of the parties involved? This is only good for one party involved, which is the employer that does not wish to pay the employee more money. That employer, having a less efficient business and being greedy and wanting to keep everything for himself, is going to screw over the customer, the employee, and every other business. How is that a good free market economy? And this is part of the reason that I think non-competes suck. This is part of the game. If you think that we should have a free market economy because a free market economy leads to lower prices and government interference is bad because you don't have to worry about that because, trust me, there's no issue with monopolies, the free market economy solves it all, why is it that you don't want a free market when it actually comes to workers? A free market economy when it comes to workers means none of this non-compete bullshit. It means if a company is no longer productive, that they're no longer keeping you there via the handcuffs and the shackles of a non-compete. It means that they will lose you to a company that is more productive, and the company that is more productive, that is more efficient, that is doing things properly, is actually going to be able to pay you more. So consumers are going to be able to get better products and services because the companies that are more productive are going to be able to take that talent that is being wasted elsewhere and utilize it at their company. The employees are going to be better off because wages are going to go up and up and up and up and up. The thing that I think is most offensive to me is that this can be enforced, again, if you're fired. Like, that's the point that really gets me. Some of the people from the Chamber of Commerce have said that this is unlawful. Congress didn't give them the power to do that. And some, I forget who from the Chamber of Commerce, but somebody had actually been quoted as saying that this is overreach. This is overreach. Now, if you want to say that the FTC doesn't have the power to do that, sure, fight that out in court with a judge. But when you say it's overreach, what you're saying is you're somebody that wishes to tell somebody what they can do with their own life after you fire them. So you're no longer paying them. You have fired them. You have no relation to this employee, but you get to tell them that they can't have a job. That's not overreach. The FTC saying that employees do not have to be shackled to you when you no longer pay them is overreach. Do you even understand the concept of overreach? Do you understand how hypocritical you sound when you say this? Do you understand how little self-awareness you need to have to say that a government agency is overreaching by giving employees freedoms, whereas you're not overreaching when you're telling them that they're not allowed to get a job after you fire them? Fuck you for that bullshit. Somebody said over here that they're skeptical it's actually going to be implemented. Linder said, one reason for this belief is that historically non-competes have been a matter of state law. I haven't seen any federal law on this. I think it should be a matter of state law because different markets have different considerations. If you're in a big metro area like New York, Chicago, LA, it's going to be different. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. That's always been the problem with these agreements. Employers overreach and draft these very broad agreements. To me, personally, it doesn't matter the market. Whether you're in Custer, South Dakota, or you're in New York City, it's the same thing. Non-compete agreements are going to keep wages lower because people are not able to get better jobs once the company they work for is not as efficient or once they have a better skill set. It keeps employee mobility down. It keeps people from being able to go to the place that's treating them the best, and it doesn't incentivize the company to treat you very well. Let's just put this in terms of personal life. If I'm in a relationship with a woman, and that woman is not allowed to leave me, if I can destroy this person in court if they leave me, am I going to be a better boyfriend or a worse boyfriend? Am I going to try to reflect on the things that I do that are poor and improve my behavior, or am I just going to sit here and be a piece of shit? Like, at the end of the day, you're not going to treat somebody very well if they're not able to leave you. And I think that the idea that we have non-competes that not only are at the C-suite level, but are at the level of hairstylists and like salon workers is absolutely insane. This is literally applying to hairstylists at this point. Now, I can understand if you were having non-competes apply to C-suite executives, if you're saying like the CEO of Procter & Gamble can't go and work for Colgate-Palmolive, like fine. You're getting millions and millions of dollars a year. You were in the top 0.1% of society, whatever. But The problem here is that this is now starting to apply to hairstylists. Hairstylists are being affected by non-competes. This is a natural way to keep wages high because minimum wage just doesn't do it. Federally, minimum wage is like $7 an hour. And even if you go to the areas of Massachusetts or California or New York where minimum wage is $15 to $20 an hour, who cares? In New York City, $15 an hour, like who cares? Minimum wage is worthless. You're still going to have 3 roommates. This is one of the very, very few ways that employees have left to increase their bargaining power and to increase their wages. It is to take their skill set to a business that values them more. And the businesses that are going to value them more are businesses that are more productive economically because they're able to pay them more money because they run better. And to take that away from them via non-competes to allow this to continue, in my opinion, is a crying shame. If you're an employer and you're having your employees sign non-competes, why? Why? If somebody else comes along and is able to pay your employees more, why shouldn't they go there? Why can't you afford to pay your employees more? Or if you can't pay your employees more financially, can you pay them in terms of a work environment? Like, I understand if Apple wanted to have a repair depot, which who am I kidding? They don't want to do that. But if Apple actually wanted a functioning repair depot rather than this like swap entire assemblies bullshit, they could probably afford to pay my employees better than they get paid here. But they wouldn't get the same work environment. When I say pay, I mean entire compensation package. The work environment you provide, whether or not it is a work environment where people feel respected, whether it's a work environment where people feel like they have some independence and autonomy to be their own person, and also whether or not they feel like they're dealing with bureaucratic bullshit. All of this, in addition to pay, goes into whether or not people are going to want to work for you. Why not improve your own work environment as an employer rather than shackle them with non-competes? I just think it's incredibly fun. As an employer, I find this to be just an incredibly immoral way to deal with your own employees. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you hope that the FTC passes a ban on non-competes, or are you with the Chamber of Commerce when they say that this is horrible government overreach as they defend employers that want to tell their employees what they can do in their own life after they fired them? Let me know in the comments down below. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.